Shido is a total loser with absolutely no enthusiasm, almost always looking miserable. Shido even struggles to make eye contact with girls, until one day, he was forced to go on a date with an evil spirit to save the world. 3 decades ago, several super powerful magical girls suddenly attacked Earth, causing a major disaster that killed millions. After the chaos, they gave the world a brief break with a long enough commercial break. However, that peace didn't last long. Recently, these magical girls began attacking again, forcing Shido to learn the art of riddles to win their hearts. One morning, while Shido and his sister, Kotori, were having breakfast, Shido asked Kotori what she wanted to eat for lunch. Kotori replied that she really wanted to try the treats at the low-class restaurant at school. After arriving at the restaurant, Kotori reminded Shido that they had to meet there after school, no matter what, even if there was a spacequake. Meanwhile, 3 not-so-attractive girls noticed them from afar, wondering if the 2 siblings grew up in Alabama, because it seemed like they liked each other. After Kotori left, Shido was ambushed by Hiroto, the idiot, who kept bothering him. In class, as they talked, a white-haired girl suddenly called Shido's name, making him wonder who she was. The girl sat next to him, and Shido, still shocked, asked Hiroto who the girl was, who turned out to be Origami, a super genius. Origami kept staring at him throughout class, making Shido feel uncomfortable. A few hours later, the school bell rang, and Hiroto showed up excitedly to tell Shido that they should walk home together. However, Shido casually replied that he had other plans. Hiroto, thinking Shido's plans involved the girl, was immediately shocked when Shido revealed it was with his little sister. Suddenly, an alarm went off, echoing throughout the city, warning everyone about an incoming spacequake. Panic spread. People started running for shelter, while the city's technology kicked in to evacuate the residents. Shido began to panic as he searched for his sister, hoping Kotori wasn't foolish enough to stay at the restaurant waiting for him. Shido tried calling Kotori, but it didn't go through. When Shido checked the GPS to locate her, he realized just how reckless Kotori could be. Without thinking, Shido immediately ran down the street toward the restaurant. However, on his way, the spacequake suddenly hit, knocking him to the ground. As he struggled to get up, Shido noticed a beautiful girl dressed like an anime character standing calmly in the middle of the quake. Shido wondered what she was doing there. The girl suddenly grabbed her weapon, causing a massive shockwave behind her, which terrified Shido. She aimed her weapon at Shido, threatening to kill him. Thinking she had come to end him, Shido quickly explained that he had no intention of doing anything because he was completely powerless. Not long after, a group of female fighters launched an attack with missiles, but the mysterious girl easily blocked all of the attacks with her energy barrier. Then, she fought back, unleashing a power that left Shido in awe. After several exchanges of attacks, Shido realized that the girl he was fighting was Origami, and he began to wonder what was really happening. The fight continued, with both girls clashing weapons, releasing huge amounts of energy that snapped Shido into awareness. Shido suddenly woke up in the real world, seeing a depressed-looking woman named Rain checking on him. Rain introduced herself as an analysis officer, and asked where he was from. Shido replied that he was in Frax and Sky, feeling confused since he was brought there unconsciously. Right away, Shido asked about his sister, and Rain tried to calm him down, telling him not to worry. Rain then led him outside to meet someone who could answer his questions. Shido was shocked to realize that the person was his little sister. Shido was welcomed into the command center by Kotori, who immediately acted like her usual self, as if she were in charge. Shido started wondering if this was really his little sister. Kotori explained that the strange woman in the anime costume was a spirit from another world, who typically caused massive explosions every time she appeared on Earth, a phenomenon they called a spacequake, which stunned Shido. Kotori continued her explanation about the group of fighters attacking the spirit, known as AST, the anti-spirit team in Japan responsible for handling the situation and basically slaughtering the spirits. Shido quickly realized that this was why the girl was going to kill him. Finally, Kotori told Shido that there was another way to handle the situation, a way different from what AST did. Kotori said this was the time when Shido was truly needed, and that surprised him. Kotori also informed him that training would start the next day. Shido wondered what Kotori would do next. Then, Shido became curious as to why Kotori was outside during the emergency. Kotori casually replied, "Because I was looking for my useless but." Hearing that, Shido could only call her an idiot for believing her own nonsense. Kotori then told Shido that he was at the restaurant, and revealed the shocking fact that the Fraxinus airship was flying exactly 15,000 meters above the restaurant. Shido was even more shocked. The next day, Shido was called into a private room and introduced to a game software similar to Sims, which was supposed to help him train for the upcoming mission. Kotori grabbed the joystick and started showing him how to play. After the session, Shido met Origami to ask about the previous events, but Origami told him to forget everything. Origami then explained that she had a mission to Sky all the spirits, which made Shido even more curious. Origami calmly stated that she had lost her parents 5 years ago because of a spirit, and that shocked Shido. After that, Kotori and Rain began training Shido. He was told that they would teach him how to convince spirits to fall in love with him. To do so, they asked Shido to try some pickup lines on the first person he met, as a test to see how effective or ineffective he was. Shido was asked to flirt with his homeroom teacher, who had been pure for 29 years. However, Shido could only come up with ridiculous pickup lines with his undeveloped brain. Seeing this, Rain decided to help and gave him a few lines, which caused the homeroom teacher to reach a sudden peak of emotion. But Shido ran away before he got into any trouble. Shortly after, Shido accidentally bumped into Origami and fell, revealing that her armor was white. Kotori told him to weaken her knees, but his useless brain could only spout nonsense, disappointing her. Rain helped again, and finally, Shido awkwardly asked Origami on a date, even though he didn't really mean it. Shido confessed his feelings, and he was shocked when Origami agreed to go out with him. However, just as Shido tried to explain that it was just a joke, an alarm suddenly rang, warning everyone about an impending spacequake. Origami rushed off, ready to suit up and face the cursed spirit. Meanwhile, the spirit from the previous day reappeared and remained in the classroom, refusing to leave, which made it difficult for AST to attack. Kotori told Shido that only he could handle the situation and save everyone. She also added that Shido shouldn't worry about what to say because the experts on Fraxinus would guide him. Shido then stepped into the classroom, and as soon as he entered, he was greeted by a laser attack that, if he hadn't dodged, would have sent him to another world. Shido quickly tried to stay calm and asked who was attacking him. The expert committee helped Shido pick the best response to give to the spirit in front of him. However, Shido felt frustrated and almost erased the spirit from existence. Without hesitation, the spirit approached him, ready to send him to Nirvana with a powerful magic ball in her hand. The spirit asked, "Why do you want me dead?" But Shido quickly replied that he was just a student, and had no intention of hurting her. In an instant, the spirit realized that Shido was the idiot she had met on the field earlier. With that, she stopped her attack and asked, "So, what do you really want?" Shido explained that he had come to talk to her, and even though the spirit had ignored him, he wouldn't pass up the chance to have a conversation. Hearing this, the spirit immediately felt embarrassed and said that Shido was the first human to try to talk to her. Shido then asked for her name, and the spirit replied, "I don't know. I don't have a name yet." She even told Shido to give her a name of his choice. With a smile, Shido named her Tuka, meaning the 10th, because they first met on the 10th of the month. Tuka liked the name, and the atmosphere between them became warmer. The AST started firing at Tuka, but she quickly created a barrier that blocked all the bullets and then told Shido to leave so he wouldn't get hit. However, Shido refused, insisting that he would stay there to talk to her. Eventually, Tuka sat down with him, holding a barrier over them, protecting them both from the large fire happening around them. As they were deep in conversation, Kotori told Shido to make a move. Confused, Shido responded, and Tuka began to wonder who he was talking to. Without hesitation, Tuka threatened to blow him up, thinking Shido was planning something evil. Unexpectedly, Tuka invited him on a date, following Kotori's instructions. However, Tuka had no idea what a date actually meant. Soon after, Origami appeared, rushing toward them, thinking that Tuka had taken Shido hostage. Tuka quickly activated her powerful weapon, Sandolphin, launching an attack that destroyed the entire area. Origami had to be carried away, injured. The next day, while Shido was looking at the ruins of the building, Tuka suddenly appeared behind him. Shido was surprised since there were no signs of a spacequake. Tuka told him that she had come because Shido had called her for a date. However, Shido explained that she couldn't wear her astral dress for the date and showed her a picture of Origami in her school uniform. Miraculously, Tuka changed her appearance to a school uniform as well. As they began their date, walking around the city, Tuka started devouring every bit of food she saw along the way. While biting into her meat, Tuka saw some white ice cream and got excited, saying she wanted to taste the same thing. Meanwhile, Origami was watching them, wondering why there was no spacequake this time when Tuka appeared. Shido became curious and asked Tuka where she went after disappearing the previous day. Tuka explained that every time she vanished, she went to a very dark place to sleep. When Shido asked if Tuka came to this world every time she woke up, Tuka replied that she felt it was something forced upon her to prevent her from sleeping. Tuka's attention was drawn to the human world at irregular intervals, and it was entirely beyond her control. Shido began to realize that these spacequakes weren't caused by the spirit's actions, but were just accidental occurrences. Shido wondered why it didn't happen today when Tuka appeared, but she refused to explain and instead said she wanted to meet again. Unfortunately, Shido was broke, so that meeting seemed unlikely. They quickly headed to a restaurant. Shido tried hard to stop Tuka from going in because he had no money left. However, Tuka insisted on checking out what was inside the restaurant. Suddenly, Hiroto appeared and saved Shido from bankruptcy by handing him some cash. After they entered the restaurant, Shido was surprised to see Rain there and immediately asked, "Why are you here?" Rain responded that they had found a way into this world. Meanwhile, as Shido sat with Tuka, he noticed her casually sneaking a glance at the menu. Not long after, Kotori also showed up and suggested that Tuka order an excessive special dish. Tuka immediately devoured the food greedily. Confused by everything, Shida asked Kotori what was really going on. Kotori replied that she was just trying to increase the chances of Tuka falling in love with him, considering that Shida had a face only a mother could love. Before leaving, Kotori gave Shida instructions to head south of the station after they finished eating. Shida followed Kotori's advice. On their way, the entire residential area suddenly transformed into a beautiful park, making the date even more enjoyable. Shida hoped he might feel love for the first time in his rather sad life. However, Shida didn't seem too excited about going there, so he decided to just spend time in the park instead. The date continued, with Tuka constantly stuffing every piece of meat she saw into her mouth. Meanwhile, Origami, who was still watching, suddenly changed into her mecha outfit, ready to attack Tuka. That night, Tuka felt a rush of excitement after the fun date. She expressed how happy she was to realize that not all humans wanted her dead, as she had previously thought. "Now I understand why the mecha team is chasing me," she said. "Every time I come to this world, I destroy something truly beautiful." However, feelings of rejection began to overwhelm her. "Maybe I don't belong in this world," Tuka said with a sigh. She asked Shidu, "Are we not part of this world?" Shidu tried to reassure her that there wouldn't be any spacequakes this time. "It was just luck," he replied. "Who knows what will happen the next time you come?" Shidu then asked Tuka to stay in this world and promised to teach her everything about it. "The mecha team and others don't want someone dangerous like you among them," he said. However, Shidu reassured Tuka that he would accept her, no matter how much others rejected her. This surprised Tuka, and Shidu asked her to hold his hand. But just as Shidu tried to take Tuka's hand, Origami, who had been aiming, appeared. Panicking after shooting Shidu, Origami watched as Tuka immediately summoned her astral dress and brought out Sandalphon, launching a massive attack toward Origami. Meanwhile, the spatial axis shut down, and the crew aboard Fraxinus started to worry about the citizens who hadn't been evacuated. However, Kotori was more concerned about Tuka. When her subordinates asked about Shidu, Kotori told them to keep working, assuring them that Shidu wouldn't give up that easily. Suddenly, Shidu's gunshot wound began to glow, and he came back to life, shocking everyone. Kotori immediately ordered a rescue. Meanwhile, Tuka unleashed a massive wave of energy at Origami, determined to ice-sky her. Origami felt discomfort, realizing she wasn't any different from the spirit that took her parents 5 years ago. As Tuka prepared to deliver the final blow, Origami confessed her sins and said her last prayer. However, suddenly, Shidu fell from the sky. Upon seeing him, Tuka immediately caught and embraced him. Her weapon was damaged from her earlier explosion of anger. They were confused about what to do to prevent the city's destruction. In that tense moment, Kotori told Shidu to kiss her, and Shidu quickly did so. In an instant, all of Origami's wicked plans dissipated as they returned to the ground. After everything, Tuka asked Shidu if he would take her on another date. Shidu agreed, even though he was still completely broke. A few days later, as Shidu was coming home from school, Kotori told him to go back to the city, but Shidu didn't go with her. He didn't return to school, trying to avoid the sudden rain that had started falling. Shidu wondered why the weather forecast had been so wrong lately when it was supposed to be rain-free. On his way, Shidu saw a young girl named Yoshino who had fallen while playing in the rain. He tried to take care of her, but Yoshino quickly kept her distance and begged him not to hurt her, surprising Shidu. The next day, on his way home from school and wondering why it was raining again despite the forecast saying otherwise, Shidu stopped at the spot where he had met Yoshino the day before. After thinking about Yoshino and her little doll for a moment, Shidu ran home. Once he got home, Shidu took off his armor and headed straight for the bathroom. There, he accidentally caught a clear glimpse of Tuka's plan. After that, Shidu went to ask Kotori what Tuka was doing in their house. Kotori explained that Tuka had decided to stay with them. Rain added that after Shidu kissed her, Kotori sealed Tuka's spirit powers, which created an invisible bond between them. Shidu was curious why that had happened, but Kotori admitted she didn't know because that information was only obtained from an analysis at Rat at Holster. Rain also mentioned that every time Tuka's mental state became unstable, there was a possibility that the story's course would change. However, there was a chance that the sealed powers within Tuka could return, and since she seemed more comfortable around Shidu, it was better for her to stay there until a special house for spirits was built. Kotori added that this was a chance for Shidu to learn how to attract more girls. This made him wonder why he still needed training when Kotori had already sealed Tuka's powers. After all that, Kotori began setting up a lot of traps for Shidu so that he could be naughty with Tuka, all for the sake of training. The next day, as Tuka and Origami were fighting for Shidu's attention as usual, the alarm for the outer space earthquake suddenly blared loudly. In an instant, everyone started running from the building to a safer place, while Origami immediately prepared to fight. On the other hand, Rain told Shidu that they had to leave Tuka behind because she was now pretty much useless. Her powers had been sealed, and it was best not to involve her in the battle between spirits and AST. Shida handed Tuka over to the homeroom teacher and rushed to Fraxinus to analyze the situation. Not long after, Rain discovered that the spirit being attacked was the same girl Shida had seen a few days ago on his way home from school. Without hesitation, Shida decided to save her and immediately prepared for a rescue mission. Shida entered the building where Yoshino was hiding from the AST attacks. Yoshino appeared confidently, though she didn't say much, as her little doll spoke for her. This made Shida wonder why Yoshino let that seemingly useless doll do the talking. However, Ratatouille Skirt quickly warned him that Yoshino's mood was rapidly declining and urged him to lift her spirits. Trying to lighten the mood, Shida asked her out on a date, but Yoshino misunderstood and thought Shida was talking about the calendar. Meanwhile, Tuka realized it was dangerous out there and felt frustrated talking to a bunch of idiots who couldn't keep their mouths shut. She immediately set off to find Shida. Yoshino, who was standing on a tall structure practicing acrobatics, suddenly slipped and fell towards Shida, landing on him and kissing him. Seeing this, Tuka, who was standing not far away, immediately got angry and asked Shida if this was what he was doing here. Shida fell silent, feeling caught red-handed. Then, Kotori informed Shida that Tuka's powers had returned to her. Her emotions began to rise, and Tuka started chattering like a chatty housewife. The little dolls joined in, criticizing Shida, saying he was a nuisance, and that he must be bored with Tuka, which is why he was moving on to another girl. Tuka couldn't take it anymore and grabbed the doll's neck, intending to silence it forever. When Yoshino approached and tried to take back her doll, Tuka insisted on not letting go, asking Shida to choose between her and Yoshino. Kotori immediately warned Shida that Yoshino's mental state was getting worse. Shida tried to ask Tuka to give the doll back, but that only made Tuka feel like Shida preferred Yoshino over her. Suddenly, Yoshino called upon Zagiel, the terrifying creature that controlled Frost, and began attacking them. However, Shida managed to save Tuka just in time. Yoshino jumped out of the building towards Zagiel and fled as AST started launching several attacks at her. Nevertheless, Yoshino managed to escape from that dangerous situation. Back in the building, Shida tried to touch Tuka, but she rejected him. Her expression showed that Tuka believed Shida liked Yoshino more. After that moment, Tuka continued to feel vulnerable and was reluctant to talk to Shida. Seeing this, Rain decided to visit her and give her a therapy session, trying to find out what was really going on. Meanwhile, Kotori and Kyuhia were analyzing the situation between Shida and Yoshino. They were wondering why Yoshino's powers weren't sealed even though the two had already kissed. On the other hand, Shida was wandering the rain-soaked streets when he suddenly saw Yoshino looking for her lost doll while trying to escape from AST. Without thinking twice, Shida decided to be a good guy and help Yoshino, especially because he really wanted to get her attention. Still in the therapy session, Rain told Tuka that the kiss between Shida and Yoshino was a mistake. Rain reassured Tuka that Shida cared deeply for her, so much so that he was willing to risk himself to save her. As Shida searched for the doll with Yoshino, his stomach suddenly growled, and he decided to take her home so Yoshino could eat. After finishing their meal, Shida asked why Yoshino didn't fly away when AST attacked her. Yoshino answered that she didn't like getting hurt and was scared, just like when facing AST. Yoshino then explained that every time she felt pain and fear, she lost control and did bad things. Yoshino then shared that her doll was her hero, because the doll always calmed her when she was anxious and nearly lost control. Shida patted Yoshino's head and promised to help her find her doll. However, Shida added that Yoshino no longer needed to rely on her doll for protection because Shida would be her hero and surprise her. Yoshino immediately felt embarrassed and apologized for kissing him that time. However, Yoshino admitted that she didn't know what kissing meant, so she was determined to show Shida once again. As Shida prepared to kiss her, Tuka suddenly burst in. Tuka intended to apologize for ignoring him, but once she entered, she went back home to vent her aggression on an innocent pillow. After that, Shida got information that Yoshino's doll had been found, but it was at Origami's house. Shida quickly headed there for a surprise visit. Origami greeted him with a suspicious look, handed him a cup of tea, and immediately went to the bathroom. During that time, Shida hurriedly searched Origami's house like a thief until he finally found Yoshino's doll. Quickly, Shida returned to his seat. When Origami came back from the bathroom, she sat next to Shida with the same suspicious expression, as if she was observing his every move. Origami then complained about not all spirits being evil, using Tuka and Yoshino as examples. However, Origami eventually dismissed Shida's opinion and stated that she wanted to kill all spirits because a spirit took her parents 5 years ago. Shida explained that Tuka's powers had been sealed to prevent any more disasters. But Origami insisted that they could never know what would happen at any time. Shida hoped that Origami could accept this and not kill them, as Tuka was a good girl. Origami's phone suddenly rang, indicating that something was about to happen, possibly a space quake. Without wasting time, Origami stood up to leave. However, before she could go any further, Shida asked if she didn't plan to attack spirits who had lost their powers. Origami replied in a hopeful tone that she actually wanted to, but it all depended on her superior's orders. Meanwhile, AST began attacking Yoshino as she tried to flee. In an instant they managed to knock her to the ground. As they prepared to finish her off, Yoshino suddenly called Satkiel, who immediately retaliated, even though AST kept firing at her non-stop. Amid the chaos, Tuka saw Yoshino and quickly ran toward the scene. At the same time, Shida called out to Yoshino from a distance, trying to stop her. However, as Yoshino attempted to pull out her doll, Origami fired a powerful laser shot from her gun toward Yoshino. As a result, Satkiel immediately attacked without caring that Shida was there. Seeing the situation, Tuka realized that Shida was in danger. Quickly, Tuka tried to summon Sandalphon, though she struggled due to her sealed powers. In a critical moment, Satkiel launched a massive attack from its mouth, but Tuka managed to save Shidu by finally activating Sandalphon, which deflected the attack. Afterward, Tuka approached Shidu and apologized for being so naughty. Meanwhile, AST continued their assault on Yoshino. Shida told Tuka that he needed her help to save Yoshino, but Tuka felt that Shida liked Yoshino more. Patiently, Shidu explained that Yoshino was a spirit just like her, and he had promised to save her. This made Tuka realize that Shida had done the same for her too. With determination, Tuka slammed Sandalphon into the ground and told Shida to use it to reach Yoshino. On the other side, AST was trapped due to the immense power of the barrier created by Satkiel. It seemed as if they would be attacked by millions of ice shards if they moved any closer. Origami quickly created a large force field and planned to lift a building, intending to strike Yoshino. However, Tuka appeared and sliced the building in half. Seeing this, Origami immediately attacked her, while the others also shifted their attention toward her. With their attention diverted, Shidu tried to approach the power barrier created by Satkiel. Although Kotori warned him that he could freeze to death, Shidu still managed to pass through it, though exhausted. Seeing Shida's effort, Yoshino healed his wounds and gave him her doll, making him extremely happy. Shidu then said that he needed to kiss her to save her, feeling embarrassed. However, as Shidu continued talking, Yoshino pressed her lips to his, and in that instant, her clothes evaporated as the sky returned to normal. After that incident, Kotori informed Shida that Tuka would no longer stay with him because Kotori had revealed a new house built specifically to accommodate spirits. One bright morning, Tuka and Yoshino excitedly approached Shidu, telling him that they wanted to visit a hot spring after seeing an ad about it on TV. Shidu then relayed the request to Kotori, who had no choice but to grant it, as Kotori didn't want the spirits to go crazy from being cooped up for too long. Meanwhile, at the AST base, the mech team captain and her subordinates also agreed to visit the hot spring, hoping to enjoy some time together. However, Origami, with a sarcastic tone, objected, claiming they looked ugly and should train more. Suddenly, Shidu called Origami and asked for permission to hold the book. Origami gave Shidu 2 more days because there was something more important she had to deal with. But when Origami heard Tuka's voice in the background, she immediately got upset, even crushing the drink bottle in her hand. Meanwhile, Shidu, Rain, and the 2 other girls soon set off towards the spring. However, Tuka, feeling jealous of how Shidu was treating Yoshino, angrily destroyed their car. On the other hand, the AST mech team also boarded the subway to reach the same spring. They tried to keep it a secret to avoid being reprimanded by their superiors, but suddenly, their train broke down. In the end, they had to continue their journey on foot. On the road, Shidu and the girls were also forced to walk after Tuka destroyed their car. Although Tuka felt bad for causing this inconvenience, Shidu tried to act cool, though he didn't actually feel that way, by reassuring her that he wasn't mad at her. As Shidu and the girls continued their journey, suddenly a bomb exploded right above them, knocking them to the ground. In the process, Yoshino lost her puppet and started crying like a baby. Then, it suddenly started raining, making everything freeze. Shidu quickly comforted Yoshino, promising to retrieve her puppet as soon as possible, and strangely, the rain stopped. Shidu began his final search amid the chaos as AST and Ratatoskr continued fighting. After dodging explosion after explosion, Shidu finally spotted the puppet. However, as Shidu dusted it off, a terrifying noise suddenly echoed. A bomb came from above, floating towards him. Luckily, before it hit, Tuka created a barrier that shielded them both from harm. Outside the barrier, Origami was ready to attack, but Tuka and Shidu suddenly disappeared, leaving everyone shocked. After that, Kotori took Shidu and the girls to her cheap hot spring. On the way, the somewhat clumsy assistant managed to find it, while the AST team also continued with their original plan to head to the hot spring. Meanwhile, Origami started searching for Shidu after she decided to come because of him, but she couldn't find any trace of him anywhere. After that incident, Mana was introduced to the AST team as the girl who once excited Sekai, shocking everyone on the team. Mana was the only one who knew about both AST and Ratatoskr. Mana sat next to Origami as the captain showed footage of their previous battle against Yoshino. Origami was curious and asked about the spirit Mana had given to Sekai. Mana explained that her spirit was different from the ones they usually encountered, which was why Mana had been transferred to this unit. Suddenly, as Mana spoke, she saw Shido on the screen and immediately recognized him, leaving Origami stunned. After that meeting, Origami told Mana that Shida had never mentioned having another younger sister, prompting Mana to ask if Origami knew him. Origami responded that they were a couple, which surprised her. Shortly after, a new student named Kurumi transferred to the school. During the introduction, Kurumi revealed that she was a spirit, shocking everyone. Kurumi then asked if someone could show her around the school after classes since she was new. A mischievous boy raised his hand, but Kurumi ignored him and walked over to Shida's seat, saying that it was him she wanted. On the other hand, AST began to realize that Kurumi was actually a spirit, and wondered why she had transferred to the school. Mana informed them that Kurumi was not an ordinary spirit, as she had defeated over 10,000 people with her own hands. Aside from the deaths caused by the rising of the spacecraft, Kurumi was both a new student and a spirit. After school, Shido and Kurumi met as planned, while Tuka and Origami spied on them jealously, curious about what Kurumi was doing with Shido. Following Fraxinus's instructions, Shido awkwardly asked about the color of her armor. Shido thought Kurumi might be angry, but instead, Kurumi teased him and tried to open the floodgates on him. But Shido quickly stopped her and asked, "What do you mean when you call yourself a spirit?" Kurumi replied, telling him not to play dumb, which surprised Shido. He then asked how Kurumi knew about him, but she refused to tell him. Instead, Kurumi revealed that she had feelings for him, although she didn't want to say it outright. From that moment, Shido knew Kurumi was hiding something. Kurumi suddenly grabbed Shido's hand, and although Shido felt suspicious, Origami and Tuka suddenly jumped out from their hiding spots, revealing themselves. A little while later, as they parted ways, Kurumi whispered in Shido's ear that she would ride her dragon the next time they were together. Once Kurumi left, Shido could only thank the heavens that Tuka and Origami arrived just in time. Who knows what would have happened to his little sausage without them? On her way, Kurumi was confronted by a group of thugs who wanted to mess with her. Without hesitation, Kurumi agreed to their plan and lured them into a corner, where she completely finished them off. Mana arrived just in time and got ready to fight her. Afterward, Mana met Shido as he walked home with Tuka by his side. Mana hugged Shido enthusiastically while calling him her brother. But his friends were left wondering, who was this chick anyway? Mana followed Shido home, feeling ecstatic that her brother was still alive, but Kotori got jealous and started fighting with her about who was real and who was fake. Later, Shido got curious and asked where Mana had been all this time. Mana replied that she had been working but was reluctant to say where, then hurried off, leaving people wondering what she was hiding. The next day, when the homeroom teacher was taking attendance, they noticed Kurumi wasn't in class, and everyone wondered why the new student was already skipping school on the second day. Origami mentioned that Kurumi wouldn't be coming back, but suddenly, Kurumi showed up in class, surprising everyone. Later, Shido received a message from Kotori asking him to come to the physics lab during lunch. There, Shido met with Kotori and Rain, who showed him footage of the incident with Kurumi from the day before. In the video, Mana and AST were attacking her brutally. However, Kurumi's presence at school today left everyone confused about who she really was. Meanwhile, Origami met Kurumi in the locker room and asked why she was still alive after they had killed her the day before. Kurumi quickly restrained her with several creepy hands that suddenly grew from the floor. Kurumi then told Origami that all their efforts were in vain, leaving Origami wondering what Kurumi was really after. Finally, Kurumi revealed that she enrolled in the school because she wanted Shido and all of his power. After school, Shido approached Kurumi to ask her out on a date, following Kotori's orders to gather more information. Kurumi happily agreed. However, after Kurumi left, Origami showed up and asked what they had talked about. But Shido quickly avoided her and left. Meanwhile, Origami couldn't stop thinking about everything Kurumi had done and said, and a feeling of worry filled her mind. When Shido got home, he found Tuka dancing in a suspicious way in front of him. Tuka kept moving around until Shido grabbed a ticket stuck between some balloons. That's when he realized Tuka had made plans to meet him the next day. Shido was surprised by this, and at the same time, Origami also called him, asking to meet the next day as well. Shocked, Shido felt confused by all of this. The next day, Shido had to meet with all three girls without being able to avoid any of them, knowing he had plans with the other two. Luckily, Ratatoska promised to help him organize the meetings with all three girls without messing up. Shido started the day with Tuka. After spending some time with her at the aquarium, he pretended to have a stomachache so he could ask to go to the bathroom. Instead of heading there though, Shido rushed to meet Kurumi, who took him to a lingerie store to buy some highly suspicious outfits. At the store, a few of Shido's classmates spotted him. When they tried to approach and accuse him of cheating, Shido quickly pretended to have a stomachache again and ran off to meet Origami at a different location. After that, they sat at a restaurant to eat. Shido asked Origami why she wanted to meet him, and Origami replied that she didn't want Shido to be alone. She also added that she planned to go home with him after the date and stay for a while, which left Shido surprised. As they began eating, Shido suddenly saw Tuka running towards him, causing him to choke on his food. He quickly excused himself and went to meet her. Shido kept running back and forth between the three of them, even though he was exhausted from all the running. Meanwhile, Shido tried to avoid his classmates who had seen him earlier. Fortunately, Yoshino managed to distract them. After some time, Kurumi ended up sitting alone near the woods and noticed some rough-looking men testing their weapons on a cat. Kurumi felt she needed to set things straight, so she approached them. On the other hand, Ratatoska lost track of Kurumi when their surveillance system suddenly cut off, shocking them. Origami and Tuka ran into each other, and both were surprised to see one another. They quickly realized that Shido was playing the role of a Casanova. Origami, suspecting there must be a third girl involved with Shido, immediately ran off to find her in a burst of determination. When Shido returned to the spot where he had left Kurumi, he found the place empty. He started to panic and wanted to go back to the restaurant, but he couldn't find his way. With growing concern, Shido wondered where Kurumi could be, and Kotori informed him that they had lost track of her. Suddenly, they received a warning about a large spirit wave approaching from the direction of the forest. Without a second thought, Shido rushed towards the forest to search for her. However, when he arrived, he was horrified by the gruesome sight. The area was covered in blood, and a man's leg was lying on the ground. Then, Shido saw Kurumi brutally shooting a man while grinning wickedly, with a hublet watch in her left eye. Feeling terrified, Shido tried to run away, but Kurumi managed to catch him with her creepy hands and approached him. Kurumi grabbed Shido and licked her lips, as if she was ready to start her lunch. However, the tense moment was suddenly interrupted when Mana appeared to save him. Swiftly, Mana launched a massive attack using her special weapon, severely wounding Kurumi before she could make a move. Shido was shocked and asked Mana how she could stay so calm in the face of all this. Mana explained that after killing someone, she had gotten used to situations like this. She added that Kurumi was a special spirit who, no matter how many times she was killed, could always come back to life. Mana continued, saying this was why she had to keep killing her, as Kurumi enjoyed sending people to Nirvana. While Shido was still trying to defend Kurumi, Mana closed the gap behind her with a barrier and prepared to deliver the final blow to Kurumi. Shido felt heavy-hearted, as he used to believe all spirits were good, but his perspective had changed drastically since meeting Tuka. Shido told Kotori that he wanted to give up, but Kotori slapped him on the cheek and told him to stop being a coward. "You can't give up now," she asserted. Shido was jolted, determined not to back down again. After that, when Shido was coming home from school, Tuka suddenly appeared and dragged him off to have fun together. Later, Shido shared his thoughts about how he needed to stop Kurumi from ing more people. However, Shido felt confused about how to talk to Kurumi, especially since she looked very different compared to when Shido was with Yoshino. Tuka wisely told Shido that Kurumi was also a spirit, and was no different from them. Tuka added that if it weren't for the attention she received, Shido could have ended up like Kurumi and the other spirits. Those words lifted Shido's confidence a bit. The next day, Shido was determined to meet Kurumi and tell her that he would save her and stop her from ing people. Shido might have thought Kurumi would be touched by his kindness, but she wasn't. Instead, Kurumi went to the roof and caused even more chaos, trying to test whether Shido was really serious. Kurumi stained the camera lens with blood, affecting the school building, and all the students immediately fell down. Meanwhile, Mana approached Kotori because she felt Shido was in danger after sending him to face the spirit alone without any weapons. Mana promised to protect Shido from now on. However, Kotori just chuckled and said she would never entrust Shido to a corrupt company like Duos, the Ex Machina industry. Mana was surprised and wondered how Kotori knew about them. Kotori explained that she knew Mana worked for them and had been transferred to AST, which surprised her even more. Mana then revealed that she owed the company and would never be able to repay them. Hearing that, Kotori disclosed that they had analyzed Mana's saliva and found that the company had injected excessive magic into her body, leaving her with only 10 years to live. Mana was shocked to hear this and hadn't realized it at all. The two of them eventually received a phone call about an emergency situation happening at school and rushed off immediately. Meanwhile, Shido once again saw Tuka in pain, and deep down, he wondered why he couldn't save his friend. In a panic, Shido asked Mana for help to get out of this terrifying situation. But unfortunately, Mana was the only one not affected by it. Rain then explained that the problem was Tuka and Yoshino's powers being sealed within Shido. Suddenly, Kurumi called Shido from the roof, inviting him to come if he had unfinished business. Shido headed to the roof, hoping to confront Kurumi. At the same time, Origami activated her mech suit and shot up to the roof, but on the way, she was intercepted by one of Kurumi's clones blocking her path. Tuka, feeling that Shido might be in danger if he went alone, tried to unlock her powers. However, she was suddenly attacked by another Kurumi clone. On the roof, Shido questioned Kurumi about what she was doing there. Kurumi explained that she was creating a time castle, a barrier that absorbed the time of people trapped in her shadows. Shido was shocked to hear this explanation. Kurumi continued to explain that the watch on her left eye represented her remaining lifespan, and each time she used magic, she drained her energy. That's why Kurumi often replenished her energy in strange ways. Kurumi also stated that the main reason she came was to feast on Shido's flesh in a traditional manner. After hearing that, Shido immediately asked Kurumi to leave the others, because Shido is his main target. But Kurumi casually says that she must stick to her words about saving others. Shido gets caught in his thoughts, but he pleads with Kurumi to remove the obstacle. However, Kurumi insists, and makes him even more upset. Shortly after, Kurumi triggers a space quake that sets off an alarm on Fraxinus, shocking everyone. Rain informs Shido that Kurumi's mental condition seems to have changed, as if she's scared. Shido starts to panic and climbs the fence, trying to break free from Kurumi's grip, who is very eager to devour him. Suddenly, Shido jumps from the roof, surprising Kurumi, who immediately follows and saves him before he falls to the ground. Shido threatens Kurumi to clean the bloodstains on the camera lens, and at that moment, Shido starts sharing good news that changes Kurumi's mind, even to the point where Kurumi tries to reach out to Shido for help. Unfortunately, one of Kurumi's clones stabs her from behind and kills her instantly. In that critical moment, Kurumi tries to touch Shido with her eerie hand. Mana, witnessing this, quickly cuts off Kurumi's arm, but Kurumi immediately uses a special move from her watch and gun to rewind time and restore her arm. Kurumi then shoots Mana, knocking her down, and swiftly appears behind Mana to shoot her again. On the other hand, Tuka and Origami, who had just arrived on the roof, hadn't even moved when Kurumi summoned many of her clones. Kurumi explained to Mana that this was the reason she couldn't break free, because she had different versions of herself from different times. In a desperate situation, Kurumi activated another spatial earthquake, but Kotori suddenly appeared and cancelled it with equally powerful magic, leaving everyone watching in awe. Kotori then summoned her weapon and got ready to fight. The battle began intensely. After exchanging blows several times, Kurumi suddenly stopped time and called all her clones to attack Kotori. Kurumi approached Kotori and fired the last bullet at her skull, hoping to end the fight. However, Kurumi thought she had won, but Kotori's wounds suddenly healed instantly, and she got back up, leaving Kurumi stunned. In a panic, Kurumi immediately called her clones to attack, but Kotori blew them up as they gathered around her. Then, Kurumi desperately shot herself to gain more power, causing Kotori to weaken as she prepared for her next attack. With determination, Kurumi got ready to shoot Kotori, but Kotori quickly summoned a powerful weapon and destroyed Kurumi's clones as they tried to protect her, also destroying Kurumi's watch. Kurumi knelt down, exhausted, while Kotori prepared for another attack. Seeing this worrying situation, Shido felt afraid that Kotori might die, so he tried to warn her. However, Kotori didn't listen, and Shido ran to block the attack heading toward Kurumi. As Kotori fired her cannon, she suddenly realized that Shido was there, and everything turned chaotic. Suddenly, Shido woke up in a hospital, realizing that everything he experienced was just a dream. He found himself and Kotori amidst the chaos. Once he saw Rain, Shido began to wonder about everyone's condition. Rain gently laid her head on her soft pillow and told him that everything was fine, even though Kurumi had managed to escape. Rain took him to where Kotori was, and after they met, Shido asked if Kotori was a spirit. Kotori explained that she was human even though the data suggested otherwise, which confused Shido. Kotori continued by saying that she was born human and only became a spirit about 5 years ago. Shido immediately recalled his dream about the past and shared it with Kotori, surprising her because everything he said was true. Shido was curious about how Kotori became a spirit, and Kotori answered that she barely remembered. Shido asked how they could forget something so important, and Kotori suggested that maybe someone had erased her memories. Kotori also explained that she was the one who sealed Kurumi's powers, which shocked Shido. Kotori added that although no one knew why, she had the ability to seal the powers of spirits, and that was why Ratatoska chose her to be the mediator. Shido kept wondering how Kotori could have healing powers. Kotori explained that it was part of her abilities, which surprised Shido. She called him forward, then punched him, warning that he would have definitely died if he hadn't woken up again. Whenever her powers returned, Kotori often felt a loss of control, accompanied by a strong urge to destroy things and people from other worlds. Shido was curious if those powers would return fully to her. Kotori replied that they wouldn't, unless she sealed her powers again like she did with Tuka and Yoshino. And since Kotori had regained 100% of her powers, Shido was required to date her, which seemed to be an interesting plot twist. Of course, Shido hoped their relationship could continue positively. Before long, Kotori suddenly fainted, and Rain quickly came to take care of her. Rain informed Shido that Kotori could only hold her spiritual energy for 2 more days. After that, Kotori would completely lose herself and wouldn't be the Kotori Shido knew anymore. So, Shido had to date Kotori within those 2 days to seal her powers again. After that meeting, Shido tried to visit Mana at the hospital, but he wasn't allowed. So, he ended up meeting Origami instead. Before leaving, Shido asked about the fire spirit that appeared during their fight with Kurumi. Origami explained that she also fainted but refused to share more details. When Shido asked why Origami looked worried about him, she replied that it was because of the spirit that burned her parents in front of her 5 years ago. Since then, Origami had been searching for it, and for revenge, she decided to join AST to hunt down the spirit responsible for that tragedy. After all that, Shido prepared for his date with Kotori. He spent time with the other girls to relax. That night, Shido met with the vice commander of Ratatoska, who expressed how clueless Shido was about sealing Kotori's powers. The man claimed that he was the only one who knew how to do it. The vice commander also showed a recording of the events from the Great Fire 5 years ago and asked if Shido wanted to see it. Maybe by watching the footage, Shida could better understand how Kotori lost control of her powers. As Shida reviewed the recording, he saw a mysterious figure alongside himself and Kotori. He struggled hard to remember what happened, but the more he thought about it, the heavier it felt, until finally, he fainted. The next day, which was the long-awaited date, Shida met with Kotori, and their adventure began. Shida tried to apply all the rise techniques he had learned from the internet, but unfortunately, nothing worked. He felt confused, wondering what to do. If this kept up, he would never be able to save Kotori. After a while, Kotori asked for permission to leave. As Kotori left, Shida decided to look for the people on Fraxinus to discuss some other possible routes Shida could try. While walking, Shida unexpectedly saw Rain taking care of Kotori, who appeared to be in pain at that time. Curious, Shida tried to eavesdrop to hear what they were talking about. Turns out, Kotori had been using medicine to stabilize herself since regaining her strength, but didn't want Shida to know, so she chose not to date Shida out of pity for him. After that, Shida returned to the beach, and when Kotori came back, Shida also took off the earpiece he used to communicate with Fraxinus, feeling they were all a bunch of idiots. Shida was determined to bring out his god-level rise side and suggested they go to the amusement park to have fun. Meanwhile, Origami met her superior who showed the new equipment they had just received. Origami asked if the tool could be used to defeat Efreet, the fire spirit. Her superior then wondered if Efreet was the spirit in the recording from 5 years ago. Surprised, Origami asked to see the video, and how shocked Origami was when she realized that the fire spirit she had been targeting was Kotori. On the other hand, Shida and Kotori were enjoying their time together. After a while, they sat down to talk. Shida was so excited, even hoping to kiss her. However, while having fun, a report reached Origami's AST superiors that the new technology had gone missing along with some other ammunition. Her superior immediately recalled Origami's question about whether the new equipment could defeat Efreet, realizing that Origami must have tampered with the equipment to use it. Amidst the hopeful atmosphere of their date, Shida tried to ask Kotori about what happened 5 years ago. However, a sudden explosion startled him. As Shida tried to find out where the sound came from, he saw that it was Origami. Shida asked her what Origami was really thinking, and Origami replied that she had just ice-guyed Kotori. Unexpectedly, Kotori reappeared and called Origami an idiot for thinking she could easily defeat her. Origami began firing heavily at them from her large cannon, and Kotori immediately transformed into her astral dress while summoning her weapon, ready to face the challenge. Then, the fight between them began, and its effects could be felt throughout the surrounding area. On the other side of the amusement park, Tuka and Yoshino watched the chaos unfold, concluding that Kotori and Shida were facing a very strong enemy. Tuka, unwilling to sit still, tried to go help, but Yoshino's doll stopped her, convincing Tuka that her spiritual power was currently sealed. However, Tuka insisted. If Shida was fighting with all his strength to save Kotori, then she had to do whatever it took to protect him. Without hesitation, Tuka took off in her astral outfit, and seeing this, Yoshino decided to join her to protect Tuka. As the battle continued, Kotori tried to block Origami's powerful attacks by creating several barriers. However, in the midst of her struggle, Kotori suddenly felt weak. She realized that she had used too much power. Origami, seeing the opportunity, quickly captured her with 2 glowing ropes from her cannon and launched another brutal attack. Fortunately, Kotori managed to protect herself. After that, Kotori retaliated, directing her anger at Origami and starting to destroy her equipment. In an emotional state, Kotori had surpassed her limits, and was ready to ice-guy her, even though Shida shouted at the top of his lungs for her to stop. Kotori called her weapon again, trying to erase her lineage, but Origami suddenly revealed that this was her way of uncovering the secrets of her parents from 5 years ago, which shocked Kotori. After that, Kotori fell to the ground, and Origami quickly reloaded her weapon, preparing to attack. However, Kotori managed to deflect the attack with a barrier she created. Shida immediately jumped between them, asking Origami to stop attacking, but she wouldn't listen. Origami insisted that she had lived with one purpose for the past 5 years. Shida suggested that Origami focus on the fire spirit and not her sister. Origami looked confused by Shida's words and replied that Kotori was the fire spirit. Origami prepared to attack, but unfortunately, she didn't succeed. As Origami launched her assault, Tuka and Yoshino suddenly appeared to distract her, while Shida quickly took Kotori away from the battle scene. As the 2 girls fought against Origami, Shida finally expressed his feelings to Kotori, making her feel embarrassed. Kotori reciprocated his feelings before finally kissing Shida, sealing her power in an instant and healing his wounds. After that, Kotori turned to Origami and challenged her to ice-guy her, explaining that Efreet and his spirit were now inside her, not in her sister. Efreet informed Origami that it was Efreet who took her parents 5 years ago, not Kotori. Origami looked confused by this explanation, and Shida clarified that someone else was responsible for what happened to Kotori. Unexpectedly, Origami reached her limit, and as she tried to fire her weapon, she fainted from exhaustion. Meanwhile, Kurumi reappeared across the city, adding tension to the increasingly complicated situation. Back at Fraxinus, Rain told Shida that his date with Kotori was pointless. Shida was shocked, thinking he needed to help Kotori deal with her emotions before he could see her potential power. But Rain explained that Kotori's emotions were already at their maximum level when she was with him, since she was a fire spirit and not just his sister. Plus, Kotori also had feelings for him. Hearing this, Kotori immediately felt embarrassed. She quickly knocked Shida down with a kick and commented that the machine must be broken. After that, Kotori told them that she finally managed to remember the spirit incident that happened 5 years ago. However, since they still couldn't confirm if someone had erased her memories, they needed to keep that information in mind.